For the people that are watching, because I'm going to ask you for a couple of photos that I can tie into this podcast, so people can actually see what you look like when you compete.
Oh
But
man.
the first very quick question is, what's your average workout routine like? Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sensation Nation. I am super excited for the subject that I want to talk about today, and it is the subject of fitness. As you can see, I came ready. I've got my headband on. I've got my shirt on, ready for the workout.
Boom.
I'm not going to tell you what this shirt is going to reveal, because I want you all to guess and drop it in the comments when you see it. If I would have been working out hard enough, the sweat would have automatically made the letters come through. And so obviously I have
It's
not
all in
done.
the back.
That's right. That's right. I haven't gotten that sweat check yet. So maybe later on. So before I hopped on this episode, I did a couple of push-ups because I didn't want to look so puny and so bad in front of the guests that I brought on today. So
Yeah,
as I decided I want to talk about fitness, I was like, I know the absolute best person to bring on to talk about fitness. This gentleman that I'm about to introduce is actually a former supervisor of mine turned great friend. Not only does he look amazing physically, he actually has an amazing core. He's just an all-around good guy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Stevo Joyce. Welcome to the show.
What's cracking? Fam?
Listen,
It's an honor to be here, man. It's a blessing, bro.
I'm glad to have you. I don't know if my views are up yet, but I know by the time I release this, they're not going to come on to see me. They want to come on to see you. So I know that my views are going to go.
No, man, it's all about you. I've been checking you out. I've seen you on too. You and the wife be getting down.
We're trying. Hey, listen, do me a favor. Tell the audience that's watching and or listening just a little bit about your background.
Okay. Well, I'm retired military, Air Force. Obviously, I served with the symmetry. That's what I call them, but sensational. I did about almost 24 years in the Air Force. Grateful, a blessing, an honor to serve. I'm still serving. I'm now currently working as a contractor for the Air Force. I work for University of Dayton. As far as my fitness background goes, I actually have always been into fitness. Like, I've always been active. I always played sports. I played football and basketball in high school, and actually played both basketball and football when I was in the Air Force. I got into bodybuilding. I did a bodybuilding show way back in the late 90s, so showing my age a little bit. But I did one show, and I never thought I was going to do it. What actually drove me was I went through a divorce, and I really hit rock bottom. And so for me, when I think about any type of relationship, I always think about, like, it's never about pointing fingers at the other person.
Mm-hmm.
It's about reflecting on yourself and what can you do to better yourself. And so that's what I did. I flipped the script and started to focus on bettering me. And I started with the physical side, which enabled me to, get back to the mental. And that drew me back into to competition. I did a bodybuilding.com 12-week challenge. I set some goals. And this happened back in the late 2014, 2015 is when I did the transformation. January, I started brand new, the beginning of the year. And once I did that, I met some really, really good people who became this family. And the rest was history. I started off with a bang, did a local show at one of the Air Force bases. And, what pushed me to keep going was I did this local show up in Clovis, Cannon Air Force Base. And it was just me and another guy in my category. And this dude smoked me. Like I thought, I was coming in like, oh man, I feel good. Like I'm looking good. I had all these people that came from my base from down in Alamo, and yeah, he smoked me. So that motivated me to do an official competition. I was like, you know what, I'm going to drive. So I did a show down in El Paso, my very first show. I got first place in novice and first place in masters. And then it was off to the races after that, man. I just started racking up. But, the important thing was the learning process, because people think about fitness and, I never push anyone to about competition. It's always, I'm like, look, you got to capture the lifestyle piece. If you can get the lifestyle piece down, then if you want to compete, then so be it. But I'll never push competition because it's not exactly the most healthiest way to go. People see, the glamour side, they see the pictures on social media and things of that sort. And they think, wow, this person looks amazing or whatever the case. But you probably feel your worst when you're on stage.
Oh, no kidding.
Even though it's a good feeling, the adrenaline's up, you're hyped up. But the problem is, leading up to the contest, there's some manipulation with water and carbohydrates and things of that sort that aren't necessarily the most healthiest things to do, to your body. And those are like the little things that people don't realize. And then there's also a negative side to competition that a lot of people don't really talk about. And that is you get so fixated on how you look. So if you're really lean or whatever the case may be, and I've seen it a lot more in women competitors.
Right.
But you get fixated on looking so great. Everyone's hyping you up, blah, blah, blah. And then after a competition, your body is going to fight to go back to what they call homeostasis. So the body wants to go back to home base. So that means you're going to put on some body fat. You're not going to look the same as you did, when you were on stage.
Right.
Some people struggle with that because they want to look that good all the time because of all the, and maybe they think that they feel amazing that way, because you put in a lot of work to get there. But there's a negative side, man, that a lot of people don't talk about. I try, because I had some competitors that it wrecked them, like especially like I said, the women. Because some women, maybe the menstrual cycle, they lose their menstrual cycle and things of that sort. There's some unhealthy sides. And I'm not talking about people that's, possibly using other things.
Sure.
But it's fun. Like for me, it's about the journey. So every time I go into a prep for a show, it's about challenging myself. And then because of the attention to detail, to stand on course with the nutrition, meeting those macros, those things can rub off into other areas of your life. And that's what happened to me. I started focusing on that. And then things started to come for me. Like that's when I ended up retiring in 2015. I got a new job. It was like my whole life changed.
Wow.
And it started with the fitness part of it, and because I started with the transformation, it wasn't about competition, like stage competition. It was about just bettering myself.
Right. Sure.
Sure. And
trying
to grow.
I like how you tied in when you started off. You talked about how physical fitness as a whole helped you mentally. And I think that's a really key thing to focus on because, being physically fit can actually strengthen you from a mental perspective. So I really appreciate you for sharing that. I don't know if you had the chance to see the episode I did about Do It Scared, but there was an opportunity right before Christmas. I had on this Christmas sweater and there was this super fit Santa who was all ripped up and buffed up. And that was the time I let the audience know that I was going to get you on to come on the show and that I wore that on your behalf. Now, I will tell you, you've kind of talked about two things. You've talked about the competitive fitness competitions, and you've talked about just kind of getting fit just as a whole. And I think both of them are journeys. So right before I came on this episode, I looked up a competitive event that you actually won in 2018 called the Battle in the Desert. And the thing that stood out for me was after the competition. And she asked you a question about what advice you would provide to folks that are out there. And two things you said that stood out for me. One of them was live in the moment. And then the other one was continuous improvement must happen until you're not here anymore. So elaborate on that, just on those two things, just a little bit for the folks that are out there going, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to eat. I don't know what not to eat. Because I know you and I have shared blue moons on rare occasions. And I'm like, oh my God, he's having a beer. You know?
Right. I mean, live in the moment. I mean, that, it should be self-explanatory, but, here's the thing is not everybody does that, I mean, because maybe they're caught up in the past and, and I'm just as guilty as the next person. I don't want anyone that listens to this or sees this I don't want anyone to think that like I'm exempt from any of this. I'm just as human as the next person. And the thing is, you can get caught up in your past. And what I mean by that is sometimes things that have happened to you, like maybe it's something that I all have to battle through some sort of adversity. It's inevitable. It's one of those escape from that. And you can't prepare for everything. So sometimes adversity strikes when you least expect it. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of how do you respond to it as opposed to, I'm just stuck in it. Just like I was saying back in 2014, the process of a divorce, I could have easily just put my head in the ground and just stayed there. But instead, I tried to find a way out to be resilient. And, I'm kind of veering a little bit away from it, but it still falls back to living in that moment. So at that time was the present day. I couldn't focus on what happened between her and I or whatever else in the past. I had to focus on the now. And you can't look too far ahead, because if you look too far ahead, you're going to miss the journey.
That's right.
And you don't want to do that because that's where you're going to learn the most about yourself is during that process, during that walk. And that's what when I refer to live in the moment is just cherish each day. Each day has its own obstacles, you know what I mean? And you have to cherish each day in order to, progress, to get to the next day. If you're blessed enough to live another day, you have to, live in that moment, live in the now, don't look too far ahead. There's nothing wrong with setting goals, that's normal. And obviously there's short-term, long-term goals, and those are going to happen in the future, you know what I mean? So, but if you don't live in the moment, you're going to miss out on so much.
After all these years, you're still dropping knowledge on me, and I'm benefiting from it. I got to tell you right now. I see that you're wearing the sweatshirt, and I was going to ask you about this organization. Anyway, I was going to kind of talk to you about it. Military Muscle. I know you have an affiliation with Military Muscle. Can you tell us what Military Muscle is and how you're affiliated with that organization?
Yes, sir. Well, so back in 2016, I didn't know anything about Military Muscle. So there was a guy. Well, it actually started back in 2015. There was a guy he was working security forces when I was stationed down at Holloman, and he was a big part of it. Like he was a part of their like recruiting process, like personnel. Happened is he saw myself and my friend Marlon. That's why I kind of started competing with. He saw us like posting on social media, and we were really doing fitness stuff, but we were all stationed at the same time, and we kind of knew each other, but didn't know. And he's the one that kind of opened my eyes to Military Muscle. And then we went to an event that we competed in Phoenix, and we met Rob, Rob Principato. He is the CEO, the owner of the company. He is retired Air Force. Okay. And so when we met him, we just connected from the start. And for me, it was just about, and for those that have served, when you get out of the military, a very daunting, transition. And not everybody can handle that transition the best because, you're used to a camaraderie, you're used to esprit de corps, you're used to the team, and you, especially, it don't even matter long you serve for, but you're used to structure. And when you get out of the military, you may not have those things.
That's right.
For me, when I got out, I immediately started working as a contractor. And fortunately for me, I stayed on the same base and sort. But like I said, when I met Rob, that's what Military Muscle offered to me. I saw an avenue that I could be a part of a family that understood my background in the military. We all could relate. It's all branches of the service.
That's nice.
That right there put us all in a, we all have this in common. You know what I mean? So when you start talking the stories and things of that sort, and then what we did was, and the motto for Military Muscle was to tie fitness in with veterans. Because there's a lot of veterans that have a lot of medical issues and things of that sort. And so, and this is just one thing that I witnessed when I was getting out, when I was going through the process of retiring. You have a lot of appointments, a lot of medical appointments and things of that sort before you. And I would see a lot of veterans that I knew from down in Holloman that would come into the pharmacy, and they would come in with bags of medicine. And I'm just like, man, like, I don't want to be that person. Someone that's got to depend on, all of these different types of pills. Because, this is what happens. It's a cycle. You take this pill, but because of the side effects of this pill, you got to take this pill to combat that. And it just adds up. You know what I mean? It's a domino effect. And so fitness and tying that in, he's like, we can affect veterans by helping them improve their life through fitness. It's kind of like a bridge through fitness, as opposed to taking all this medication.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
And I loved it, man. And all of the things that Military Muscle stood for was that. And then they also we had a Military Muscle Foundation, which have donations and things of that sort. And what Rob would use for that is he would create job fairs and try to help veterans with like getting jobs, because that struggle is out there. Where do I find work? You know what I mean? Think about
it went beyond the fitness, and it became like a brother and a sisterhood to just kind of bring everybody up to a high level.
Amen.
That's amazing.
I just loved it. So I started off as an ambassador, and they're and you just work your way through it, just representing. Like I said, I was just proud to be a part of it. And everything. Yeah. And then I went up the ladder. Like I became an athlete for Military Muscle, and to be an athlete, you actually have to be. Whoops.
See, that's too many. He just flexed his muscle, ladies and gentlemen. He flexed his bicep and then knocked the camera over.
I got intimidated, you know what I mean? I got excited. I get passionate when I talk about this stuff because, I being with military, like I said, it provided me that family that I was missing when I left the military. But I'm just starting off in fitness at that time. And I got a chance to meet so many veterans that was out there, and to hear their story, amazing. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to capture. That's what geared me to start like my YouTube channel. Like I started filming like all the events, going to the Arnold, going to the Olympia, and all those things. I was with Military Muscle, and it just grew and grew, and you have to be selected. So there's no like process. Like usually what they do is they watch you as far as like when you're an ambassador, moved up to representative, depending on like how much. Now the company, you can move up. You have to be selected by Rob. So he handpicks who he wants as his athletes because he knows that they are going to represent the country at a higher level. And you don't have to be a competitor or nothing like that. It's just who he sees is putting in the effort, for the company, but for our veterans.
Wow,
And
that's freaking awesome. That's freaking awesome. And I know you are the right man to be an ambassador, a representative, whatever it may be. Hey, I got two other quick ones that you could probably knock out very quickly for the people that are watching, because I'm going to ask you for a couple of photos that I can tie into this podcast so people can actually see what you look like when you compete.
oh
But
man.
the first very quick question is, what's your diet like, just in general?
Well, typically there's a lot of asparagus. I do try to eat a lot of greens, so I do asparagus, I do kale, I do broccoli, peas, for like my green side of the house.
Mm.
Stick with primarily like jasmine rice and starchy carbs. I also use oatmeal quite a bit. Oatmeal is a really good carb source because it also has with it. So I'll do oatmeal, I do red potatoes, and then that's for the starchy carbs. I don't do bread.
Mm.
And then as far as like protein sources, I just try to stick with like a lot of chicken breast, tuna, salmon, and eggs. I do whole eggs, not just egg whites. I do whole eggs. It's kind of basic, but
Okay, no, it's simple, but it does what it needs to do, right?
yeah.
To accompany that, that was my first quick question. My second quick question is, what's your average workout routine like?
I do a single body.
Okay.
Like Monday will be back day, and then I know most people do a split. Some people say bro split, but they'll do like back and biceps or chest and
Mm.
triceps. But I isolate per body part, so I have a whole separate day for arms. I have a whole separate day for back, chest. Like I separate everything. And my split is usually back Monday, chest Tuesday, and then legs Wednesday, and then I'll do shoulders Thursday, and then arms on Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday is just some ab work and cardio. I'll do about 30 minutes of cardio. I usually like the stairman. I do low intensity cardio,
Mm.
steady state, and then I'll work on my posing. I'll do some posing on the weekends. But
Nice.
it's simple. The best thing, the one thing about fitness is, and the one issue is there's so much information out there. So if someone is starting out and they say they want to Google things or they're going to watch YouTube, you're going to have so many different angles. Do it this way or do it this way or this way is healthy. There's so much, man. What I tell people is just focus on what's good for you,
Mm.
because every single person is different. Every single person is unique. And what works for me may not work for you and vice versa. So
That's right.
find what works for you. And then it depends on what your goals are. Usually if you're trying to gain, size or muscle, then your the protein is the critical piece. Carbohydrates, we can survive without carbs,
Mm.
but the essential pieces are your protein and fats, and obviously water. So you have to make sure that your water is good, that your water is high, and you have to make sure that your protein's high. Usually what I'll tell people is rule of thumb is whatever your body weight is, because most people don't know what their lean body mass is or their body fat percentage. So
Mm-hmm.
go by what your body weight is, and in 200 pounds, get close to 200 grams of protein. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So that way, at a minimum, you want to maintain the muscle that you have.
Mm.
Now, people will say, you'll hear terms like surplus. When you say surplus, they're talking about calories. So everyone has a main calorie set. So that means this is the amount of calories it takes for you to maintain the body weight that you're at. So if you say surplus, then you're talking about you need to go over that, and so you go 300 to 500 grams over your maintenance calories to help you gain. But those calories should come, from primarily from your protein. Now, when you're
Mm.
trying to gain, you're trying to really push it in the gym, your carbs are a fuel, but you can adjust your fats also to get fuel. And then when you start talking about if you're trying to lose, you want to be in a deficit. So you say you take those maintenance calories off, say 300 calories or 500 calories, whatever that deficit is. and that'll help you to help lose weight.
Wow, that's wealth of knowledge right there. I got to tell you, and I know this is going to help somebody, right? And I think it's important to just reiterate what you said as well. Is that because I'm warning everybody, once you see these pictures, you're going to be like, man, I feel bad about myself. So I love the fact that you told everybody do what works for you. Before we wrap up, I want to ask you, right? You're riding on the elevator right now. You just get on the first floor. You're headed up to the, 25th floor.
Yeah.
And somebody's in the elevator. What kind of advice would you leave with them right now when it comes to fitness?
Measure your fitness off of how you feel. You know what I mean? I think sometimes we get caught up you get so wrapped up in the goal itself that, just like we talked about the journey, you forget about the feeling. And some people get locked in like on the scale. So like I always try to make sure I let people know, like, the scale can be devil's advocate in a sense, but it can also be a double-edged sword to you, because if you get so focused on the scale, well, my pants are fitting looser, my shirts are fitting looser, or they're fitting tighter if you're trying to gain or whatever the case, some people that aspect of it because they're so focused on the number, because the number may not change very much, but you're making progress. They base it off of how you feel. Do you have more energy? Do you feel more positive? Because those are the things, there's times where I'll go to the gym, I'm leaving work, and maybe I had a rough day. I've gone to the gym with a migraine before. When I leave the gym, I'm on a high.
Wow.
The dopamine response, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to get those positive endorphins, within your body to like promote, like, oh man, I feel good. Like I got good energy, good positive energy. I feel good about myself because, even though I didn't feel like going before I left, now I feel like, man, I got all this extra juice. And sometimes people don't think that aspect of it.
Wow.
It's sometimes the little things. I do have.
That's awesome.
You asked me about continuous improvement. And here's one thing with continuous improvement is I learned continuous improvement in the Air Force. When I served in the Air Force, that was something that that the one constant in the Air Force is change.
Right.
And they've always in these new things. We had the flow charts and all of that stuff. But one thing that always stuck with me was continuous improvement. And I think because regardless of how long you live on this earth, you better yourself. You never want to get stagnant, because there's always room to grow. And you got opportunity to grow, but you have to want it. Like, you can't expect that people are just going to give that to you. You can't sit back and wait for things to happen. You got to make things happen.
Nice. That's awesome. Listen, man, I feel better already. I haven't even worked out, but you gave me a mental workout. Hey, listen, so I want to give you an opportunity right now. And I actually just took myself a mental note, because as soon as this is over, I'm going to go subscribe to the YouTube channel out there for Military Muscle. But if someone wanted to just kind of find out how to maybe follow your affiliations with Military Muscle or anything else, how would they go about doing that?
Get me would be Instagram. I mean, I have Facebook, but I'm not on Facebook as much. But Instagram is where I'll spend the most time. That's where I post at the most and things of that sort. My Instagram is D00D0060, or they can, pull me up by my name or whatever. Channel is Stevo Joyce Lifestyle and Fitness. I think it's either Lifestyle Fitness or Fitness and Lifestyle, but it's Stevo instead of Steven or Steve. And it's the same thing. I mean, that if I said I'm there, man, as far as like, I'm always willing to help. It's just like on my YouTube channel, I always made sure to mention the YouTube channel was to help other people. Right? And I'm not worried about numbers. I'm not worried about views and all of that. If I can affect one person, then it's well worth it. That's what it's all about. So many people have helped me, I'm not talking about just fitness, just a lifestyle journey. I talk about, because Henry, and I know we didn't get into history with him and I for your audience, but I learned a lot working with Henry, and I tell his story quite a bit. I was just talking about him last week at work, because I talk about his journey from you was in the Marine Corps, you crossed over into the blue, and you were successful in the Marine Corps. And then you cross over into blue, and then you were successful in, as an enlisted member, you were very successful again. And then you cross over officer realm, and now look at you again, excelling. Like, you're a person that I look up to, So for me, it's about, if you surround yourself with good people, that are motivated, they can inspire you, and you just try to do your best to try to inspire as much as you can to them too. But it's twofold.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's never about me.
That's
it's
right.
about what I give back, because so many people have helped me. I wouldn't be here if I wouldn't have had those experiences, if I wouldn't have met those amazing people like yourself that I have crossed paths with in life. I mean, every day I'm grateful. Every day it's a blessing.
Man, yeah, your energy is contagious. Your positive energy is contagious, and I would just say likewise. One thing my wife has asked me to stop doing so much is overly humbling myself, right? Because I'm always like, no, that kind of thing. But you have to be able to allow others to acknowledge some contributions. But I want to say that because I would not be where I am had I not been surrounded by people like yourself. I mean, next time you tell that story, pat yourself on the back, take credit for it, because you could say, I was his supervisor, so you taught me and trained me well. Hey, listen, Stevo Joyce, it has been an absolute pleasure. Please go out and find him on his platforms. Go check out Military Muscle. Stay in good health. Do what works for you. Yes. And until next time, again, Stevo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Sensation Nation appreciates your contributions. Until next time,
Amen.
I'm out.
Love you, my brother.
You too, brother.